Thank you all for coming. My name is Teresa Tansey. I'm one of the state reps in Narragansett. I also represent bits and pieces of South Kingstown. And I just want to thank you all for coming this morning. I'm very happy that there's such a good turnout, and I'm anxious to hear the kind of questions that folks have and that remain after the implementation of the new tax proposals last year. I am available as well for any questions afterwards if anybody has any. But I am so happy that the Rhode Island Association of Realtors and the Division of Taxation have agreed to come back to answer the additional questions, and I just want to take a moment to thank them for doing so. And we'll turn it over to them so that we can get started. Thanks again for coming.
Thank you, Representative Tansey. My name is Neil Downing. I'm a Chief Revenue Agent from the Rhode Island Division of Taxation. I wanted to thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to come here today. I'd also like to thank the people of the town of Narragansett and the appointed and elected officials in Narragansett for reserving this venue for us. This is a beautiful space for us. We were here, some of you might recall, last June to discuss this very topic, and here we are again today. There are a number of reasons we are here this morning for this seminar. One has to do with a kind of a special provision in the law that was enacted on June 30, 2015. As you know, that law extended the sales and hotel taxes to short-term residential rentals. But there was a quirk, and the quirk was that if you had entered into a short-term residential rental on or before June 30, 2015, the taxes did not apply to you for occupancy in 2015. So a lot of people were knocked out, eliminated, exempt from this tax in 2015. And those people will be subject to the tax starting this year and for future years. So we're hoping that some of you are either here today or watching on YouTube will be able to pick up some tips on how to comply with the taxes starting this year. Also, even if you were subject to the taxes last year, there are reporting requirements that apply to you. At this time of year, filing season, 2016, we focus on the personal income tax, whether it's the federal income tax or the Rhode Island personal income tax, and all of its reporting requirements, the April deadline, payments, etc. But the sales tax and the hotel taxes are also separate taxes that have their own sets of rules and their own reporting requirements. They're not difficult, but if you're facing them for the first time, it's hard to understand. But once you get used to it, there are thousands of people throughout Rhode Island, I think maybe 30,000 or so, who have signed up as retailers, and you will be joining their ranks. Once you learn how to file the sales and hotel tax returns and how to make payments and when they're due, it's an automatic thing. It's just getting used to it. So we are here today to go over those rules, to go over the reporting requirements, and of course to answer your questions. Again, I thank you for coming, and before we get started with our program, another group that I would like to thank especially today is the Rhode Island Association of Realtors. Without Monica staff and the Rhode Island Association of Realtors, I don't think we could have mounted this seminar today. They made a lot of effort, really went above and beyond to schedule this venue and also to make pre-registration requirements. So I'd like now to invite Monica up to say a few words. Monica?
Good morning, everyone. Some of you I know are members of our association. For those of you who are not, our members are the folks who manage properties, rent them, help you sell them, all kinds of things. But I'm not here to do a commercial for our group. So I just wanted to let you know, just to give a little message of not shooting the messenger today. Our association, probably like many of you, opposed this tax. We fought it tooth and nail. It was proposed for a number of years. Last year, unfortunately, we weren't able to stop it. The reason I mention that is to say the people who voted for it are not the people on the stage. And they're probably none of you unless you're elected state representatives or state senators or the governor's office yourself. So all I'm suggesting is those are the folks to talk to if you don't like the tax. The people here are going to be guides to help you get through this process and try and make it as painless as possible. And I have to say one quick plug. Yep, I'm brown-nosing the Division of Taxation today, but one quick plug is, as Neil was mentioning before, last year, some of you might remember, this tax, about 3 or 4 days' notice, was going to go into effect on the 4th of July weekend. And it would have applied retroactively to pay, and you know how far in advance you book your properties. You probably booked a lot of them last fall already for this summer. If it weren't for the Division of Taxation, and that's why I'm so high on them, if it weren't for them issuing an interpretation, everyone would have been scrambling to collect this tax for the July weekend about 3 or 4 days' notice. So that's why our association was very happy to work with them. They've really done a lot to answer our questions, and I'm confident they'll be able to answer yours today. So thank you all for coming. And good luck with your taxes.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Don Englert. I'm the chief of the excise section at the Division of Taxation. And first and foremost, we want to thank everybody for taking time out of their day to join us today. With me is Teresa Iafredi and Sue Colburn. Teresa and Sue are principal revenue agents also in the excise tax section. You have a handout that you received when you came in. If you wouldn't mind taking a look at that, the items we're going to discuss are listed under the topics of discussion. The first item is a business application or registration form called a BAR. Now, if you've taken out a sales tax permit, you already have filled this out. If you haven't, you may, after this seminar, decide that you need one. We have plenty in the back desk that you can fill out. Teresa is going to take us through how to fill that out. She's also going to speak on the renewal. If you have a sales tax permit, you have to renew that each year. She's going to discuss that. She's also going to discuss seasonal filers, because many of you may just have activity for June, July, and August. So we're going to talk about that to kind of streamline the filing process for you. Sue is going to talk on the other items that remain under topics of discussion, namely the sales tax return, which is a Form T204. She's going to talk on Form 8478, which is the hotel tax form. 2 separate taxes. We're going to stress that today. And we're going to talk on the annual reconciliation. Neil touched up on that very briefly. If you have a sales tax permit, you are a retailer. If you rent your home, you may be subject to charging the tax. You will be a retailer. And we're going to go over all of this today. If that's the case, at the end of the year, you have to file an annual reconciliation form. And again, we have examples. Sue is going to go over that with you. As Neil said, right now we have 30,000 sales tax permits out within the state. That's all the big guys. That's the small guys on Main Street. That's anybody that runs a store or a retail outlet. They have to file an annual rec. So it's not specific for your industry. It's a retailer in general, and I know that's new to you. We'll take any questions once we give you some examples. We do have a blank form in the packet that we, again, will be going over shortly. So we were here last June. We had a great crowd. Glad to be back again. We did discuss in detail how the tax works. I just want to give a little snapshot of how this tax works again, just as a little bit of a refresher. Because many of you probably didn't have to charge tax last year if you had your agreements in before July 1st. So there's 3 taxes in play here. We have the sales tax at 7%, we have the hotel tax at 5%, and we have the local hotel tax at 1%. They are 3 distinct and different taxes. They may apply to the rental of your residential dwelling. And a residential dwelling, by definition, is basically your primary residence, the home you live in, your beach house down here in Narragansett, a condo you may own, or a room in any of those houses. That is a residential dwelling. Primarily, I think we're here to talk about your beach houses here in Narragansett, or maybe a condo you have. So how is the tax going to be applied to this? If you have a rental that's greater than 30 consecutive days, or for 1 calendar month, we're glad you're here, but you don't need a permit. That's a long-term rental. You don't have to do a thing. There's no problems. It's not a taxable event. So I want to repeat that. If you have a rental that's greater than 30 consecutive days or for 1 calendar month, and that's all you're going to do, you don't need a permit. So let's use some examples. You use your beach house all summer, and then you rent it in September to URI students, September through May. Do you need a permit? No, you don't. If that's the only rental you do, those are tax-free long-term rentals. You do not need a permit. Nothing we're going to talk about today will apply to you if that's all you do. If you rent your beach house, say you use it in June and July, and you rent it to a family, same family for the month of August, that's 1 calendar month, and that's the only rental you have, you don't need a permit. Nothing today is going to apply to you. Those are long-term rentals. Where the tax applies is if you have a short-term rental, and that's 30 days or less. So this is your first 2 in July. So if you rent your beach house for a week or 2 weeks at a time in the summer, this tax will apply to you at this point. That's a short-term rental. So we're going to break it into houses, and we're going to break it into rooms because there's a different tax application. If you rent your house in its entirety for a 2-week period or 30 days or less, whichever, you have to charge the 7% sales tax and the 1% local hotel tax. The 5% does not apply to a house. A room is different. A room is just like a hotel. If you rent a room for 30 days or less, you have to charge the 7% sales tax, the 5% hotel tax, and the 1% local hotel tax. A room is taxed just like a room in a hotel. If you went to Providence, to the Biltmore, to the Marriott, to the Westin, they're going to charge you 13% total. That's what you're going to have to charge if you rent a room. Okay? In a nutshell, that's kind of how it works. So you can see 30 days is the big issue. If you're greater than 30 days, consecutive days, to the same person, all 1 calendar month, there's no tax. If it's 30 days or under, a house is 7 plus 1, a room is 7 plus 5 plus 1. That's how it works. Now, we've got 2 issues I want to just mention, and then Teresa and Sue are going to get into detail. The first issue is people are collecting the right tax. They're combining the tax amount and giving it to us on one return. And that's creating a delinquency here at Taxation. So let's say you have a rental for 1 week, and it's a house, 7 plus 1, and you're going to rent it for $1,000, and you collect the $70 sales tax. That's great, and you collect the 1% hotel tax. You've collected 70 plus 10, 2 distinctive taxes. What some people are doing by mistake is just combining the two, the $80, and giving it to us on a sales tax return. Well, we have the money. We thank you for that. You don't owe us anything. However, the problem is you're creating a delinquency for the hotel tax because you haven't filed that return. You've given us all the money you collected, but it's under sales tax. And I had somebody ask me today, well, what's the difference? And it's a very fair question. Well, the difference is we have to give the hotel tax back to the local jurisdiction. So if you give us $80 of sales tax, that's state revenue. We have to break it up so your city or town, namely Narragansett, gets their proper money. So Sue is going to talk on that. She has examples and whatnot. If you have any questions, that will be the time to ask them. We're going to give you some examples, and we're going to go over the examples twice. Sue is going to give you the example if you want to write down the numbers, and then I'm going to kind of almost repeat it again and go over it, and we'll take your questions at that time. And the other area I just wanted to go over, a little bit of confusion. I think everybody in the room received a letter, and I can't deny it because my name is on the bottom of the letter. I didn't know they were going to put my name on it. You guys all got this in February. I just want to read the first sentence to you because I did have some phone calls and letters, and there was a little bit of confusion. And the first sentence says, our records indicate that you may have a duty to register with us and to collect and remit sales and hotel tax if you rent out property located in the state, such as homes, cottages, or rooms. When I put down if you rent, I meant you, the homeowner. If you rent on your own and you rent 30 days or less, then you will have to take out a sales tax application, again, in the back of the room. You will have to collect sales and hotel tax for us and remit it to us. But I want to be very, very clear that if you go through a realtor or Airbnb, a hosting platform, such as Airbnb, you do not take out the permit. It is their responsibility by law. So I want to repeat that. If you go through a realtor exclusively, you do not do it on your own, or you go through a hosting platform such as Airbnb, it is their responsibility by law to collect the tax from the renter, give it to us, and then give you the bill, take their commission and give you the balance of the rent. So you do not have to file. We have a representative from Airbnb who's with us today. I talked to Peter before. If you have any questions, Peter, you're going to be available after the session? If any questions? Okay. Peter is from the San Francisco office. He told me this morning he was in the area, saw that we were having the seminar, and graciously joined us. As Monica is here from the Realtors Association, Monica's on board with the Realtors Collecting. I know I've got Realtors in the room. So just bear in mind, if you're a Realtor, you're responsible. If you're a homeowner and you do it on your own, you're responsible. But I want to be very clear on that because there was some confusion. Now, we're going to take questions at the end, but does anybody have any questions on the Realtor hosting platform Collecting? If you just come up to the front because we want to get you on for those that can't join us. Just in the microphone, please.
Oh, thanks. My question is, I'm a rental agent in Newport, Rhode Island, and we do short-term rentals. It's like the yachting rentals, and they are usually under 30 days. My question is, we have to collect the tax and therefore submit it. So we're responsible for the form, is what I'm hearing you say?
Yes, you are.
Okay, will every property have a different tax ID number?
No, the real estate company has the permit. So anybody who goes through you is a client of yours.
Yeah.
So if you have 10 clients or 1,000 clients that you're renting for,
Yeah.
all the monies you collect will be under your sales tax permit.
Okay, so rental agents, property managers, real estate firms are all going to have to get a new retail sales tax ID?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, and the
Thank you.
form's right back there. We're going to go over that form right now, too. Yes, I'm taking them right on the realtors, realtor questions right now?
No, it was about the, what you just spoke.
Yep, okay.
So with Airbnb, I understand going forward, we wouldn't have to do this, but Airbnb wasn't in agreement with Rhode Island until mid-August last summer, as I understand. And we are split. Some of it was taken care of after they agreed with you, and some of it wasn't. We started in mid-July, so we really were in the dark about all of this. Right. So my question is, what do I do for this year's filing? Because I haven't done anything yet.
And you are going through Airbnb currently?
I have gone through all the way for everything, yes.
Okay, so
already, and I still am.
Okay, so at that point, Airbnb is collecting the monies from your renters.
I understand that, but what about this past year? Do I need to file and get these forms for last year before Airbnb took over?
So the law went into effect July 1st, so we're really talking about the month of July.
Yeah, not even.
Not even.
No, because I didn't start till after the middle of July.
Okay, what we're going to ask you to do, and again, as Monica touched up, this, I don't know if you guys remember, you probably do, the law passed June 30th, also at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, by the way, because I was quite anxious to see if we had to start the next day to implement this ourselves. We came down here in June prior to that. What we're asking you to do on that is just file the July return on a use tax, a consumer's use tax return. If you've collected $50, all you have to do is put the $50 on the consumer use tax return. We are obviously not going to charge any interest on that, and that's a means for an honest taxpayer to remit the monies prior to Airbnb getting their systems up to date.
Okay, so I'm going to tally up everything I made. I'm going to take, what percent? 13? Since it was a room, under 30 days.
Yes,
13%, and I'm going to submit that under, one more time?
A consumer's use tax return is called a T205. It's on our website.
T205. I got to write it down because I won't
Okay.
remember.
I'm going to give everybody the phone number of Excise, so if you need any help afterwards, it's 574-8955. 574 8955. I have to put a plug in for the staff we have there. It's the best staff in taxation. They are excellent. So if you call, anybody who answers that phone is going to be able to help you with your issue. And if you have something they can't help you with, they will be able to get the answer. So feel free to give us a call. We're there to help you. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn over. Yes, sir. Come right up.
Hi, thank you. I have just one of those beach houses here in Narragansett. Let me thank Representative Tansey for orchestrating. This is good. Here's my question. I've rented for this coming summer. 1 week's rented through VRBO, Home Away. Other rentals already in place, people that have come back for years, working with me directly. So what happens with the amount of money that VRBO's collected? Are they forwarding it to you, and do I report that? And do I send you money because they already have? And now I'm talking about a combination of rental sources, and I am confused.
Understandable. If you are going through a hosting platform, and I'll use Airbnb because they're here, I'm not going to name the other ones, they are responsible by law. They should be collecting the tax and remitting it to us. It is not your obligation to wonder if they're collecting and say, gee, if they're not, maybe I should. The law is clear. They're required to collect. If there is a liability determined in the future, it will not be to you, it will be to them. Okay?
So they're in place, for instance, that particular site. I mean, you said you weren't going to reference it, but they are working. You are connecting to VRBO Home Away as far as you know, or?
We're working with them. Let's just say Airbnb is a model taxpayer. Some others are not.
So if it doesn't indicate on my rental agreement that they have collected something and they haven't, it sounds to me like I ought to send it to you to avoid issues. Does that make sense?
It's a tough question you're asking, sir, because the law is saying they should be collecting. If they're not, I understand, and I'm kind of in the middle with you on this one. Airbnb is remitting to us. Some of the others have not followed suit. Others have. We're in a situation where we're in contact with each and every one of them. But if you feel, I'm just going to put as a recommendation, if you feel the proper tax is not being remitted, we will accept that T-205, that consumer use tax return. The other thing is, if you have somebody that is not remitting, I would appreciate you to get in touch with us so we can continue to follow through with them. We won't ask for your name, but we will ask for their name, and we'll follow through.
Thank you. And then regarding forms that you're speaking of, I see that we have the monthly sales tax return that you've provided. Have you provided us with any of the other forms that you're speaking on? Are they in the packet?
They're in your packet, and we're going to go over those very shortly with you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
What if we as people, without the realtors, have more than one rental property? Do we need one form for us, the people who rent, or one per property?
Is your property in different LLCs by any chance?
No.
No, just then one form is fine. Even if they were multiple, that would be your call. But I found that most people, if they have homes that they put in different LLCs, a lot of them want separate sales tax permits.
Right.
But if you own a couple of homes in your name, then one permit, you would combine everything together. It's just revenue from those locations.
Thank you.
Okay.
If you're just using an online site for advertising, but you're collecting all the proceeds yourself, then I'm responsible to fill out the tax returns.
Yeah, that's a real good question, because we've had that before when we spoke last year. That's a very good point. If you're using a realtor, a hosting platform strictly for advertising, and that renter goes through the website, locates your place, and goes to you direct, yes, you're the person renting as the homeowner. You're responsible to collect the tax. You need a sales tax permit for that.
And can I file that just at the end of the year, or are you saying we need to file it monthly for each month you rent?
You're going to have to file monthly in the periods that you have activity, rental activity, and Sue is going to touch up on all of those returns very shortly.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Can I have one more quick question?
Yep, go ahead.
This is from a property management firm in Newport. If they just took on a new client, okay, because the client's gone out of town, and he already has this number, do they now have to go and sign up with you, and this is the only property they're handling, or can they use his tax ID number that he's signed up for?
No, definitely they would need their own.
The real estate agent, the property manager can't, they have to have their own.
That's
okay.
correct. And that gentleman should cancel his permit
Okay.
because he's
All
still
right.
going to be active on our system.
Okay, thank you very much. And the next question is, lots of times these rental, like said earlier, is done way in advance, and there's a payment plan. So let's just say you put someone under a lease contract in November, but they're actually not going to use the house until August, and there's like, just say there's 4 payments. With the last payment in the month of August, then you would file it. I mean, you wouldn't file it in November, because what if the thing falls through? Because lots of times that happens, and you have to return the money.
Yeah, the way we're doing it, and Teresa's going to touch up on this, I'll mention it this time, though. If you have multiple payments, a down payment, a
Yep.
second payment, and a final payment, we had agreed with the Realtors Association through Monica that the tax was due when the final payment was collected,
That
not
makes
the
more
first or
sense if it
second.
falls through or something
Right.
happens.
Now,
Okay.
by the letter of the law, being a tax guy,
Yeah.
the taxable event is when the renter actually gets the key.
Okay,
So as a Realtor, you have the option to charge when the final payment is in or when you give the key to the renter, but it was very clear to us in Narragansett, Newport, and Block Island that nobody wanted to charge tax to the renter when they got the key. Everybody said, I want to charge the tax on the final payment. So I just want to give you an example. Let's say that final payment is in June. That's a trust fund. You owe us that. You can't wait until the guy comes in with his family to rent your property. The tax is due when you collect it. So the June return is due on July 20th. So you want to be sure that when you collect the money, you have until the 20th of the following month to file that month's return.
and also coming from Newport, they have their own bunch of forms that go along with all this. Are you guys in connections with the cities and towns as far as collaborating and working together? Because sometimes you get really opposite information.
You're going to see page 2 with Sue on the hotel tax return. It will show how we work with the jurisdictions.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you. Just a few quick notes before we continue with the program. I wanted to let you know that we are joined here today by Town Councilman Patrick Murray. So just a hand for Town Councilman Murray, sitting over there on the side.
Thank you. I just want to say one thing. I think the state is going out of the way to come down. I think they're doing a great job explaining this. It's here. We got to deal with it. Representative Tansey didn't want me to speak because of my dialogue from the last meeting, so that's why I'm speaking. Councilman Wilkins is also here with us today. So, thank you.
Also, many of the tax forms and other information is available on our website, which is www.tax.ri.gov. That's tax.ri.gov. And that includes the FAQs, some of which, some of you got the FAQs on the way in. And I'd just like to note that if you get a chance when you get home or back to work or whatever to look through them, the FAQs include questions and answers on many of these iterations involving websites, whether hosting platforms or you use them for advertising purposes or to rent through. It seems like a zillion different possibilities when it comes to various websites, and those are addressed in our FAQs. Finally, I wanted to mention that if you have any friends, relatives, or colleagues who have not been able to make it today, we do have a video. It's going to go up on YouTube, I'm told, within the next few days or so. But also, we're going to have another live seminar. This will be in Newport at the CCRI Newport County campus on Friday, April 1st. Tentatively, that's 10 a.m. to noon. But if you keep looking on our website, we'll provide details, including registration information for that. So thanks. Don, back to you.
Okay. Teresa's going to speak to you now on the application process and seasonal filing, so if you have any questions in those areas, feel free to ask her.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Teresa. Going to walk through, maybe some of you guys have the sales tax permit already, but for the majority, it felt like you don't have it and you're not familiar of how to fill it out. So we're going to be going over that business application registration that was in the packet. Actually, it was a separate. Could you speak louder, please? I'm not the only one that's having trouble hearing. Sure. Sure.
I don't think you're going to want to go up there. You got too much stuff. Yeah, just let her rip. Be loud. Yeah, you got too much stuff.
Stand on this side, okay? Is that better? Okay. All right. So again, we're going to start with the business application registration. It's a lengthy form. There is, I believe, 8 pages of it. I'm going to try to make it as painless as possible. For the first page is kind of very important. It's where we figure out what are you doing, who you are, what's your ID number, what's your name, what's the property address, what's your address, bunch of personal information that we really, really need to register you. So for the first bunch of questions, number 1, 2, 3, and 4 in essence, if you can picture numbers next to the questions, one of those has to be a yes. Common misunderstanding that I'm renting my home, I'm not in the retail business. Therefore, the question of do you make sales at retail is usually a no. People cross it no, send it in, and we have to send it back saying you are at retail, please submit the form again with a $10 retail fee. Then for the second portion, the fourth one down on the left. Fourth one down on the left.
When you're going over it,
Correct.
you can say,
Correct.
we're going to repeat the example, just because I mentioned it, but you can see people are writing just
Then-
like I thought, so just say we're going to.
Question number 5, in essence, would be sales tax liability greater than $200 per month. This is a yes or a no question, and it determines whether we're going to, actually, it doesn't matter, because in your situation, we want everybody to file as a monthly filer, and Sue's going to touch up on why that is. It really doesn't matter. So just might as well just put a yes for now. Okay, so you know what? Let's start all over. Question 1, do you have employees working in Rhode Island? So it would be a yes or no. Do you have Rhode Island withholding? If you don't have any employees, you're not going to have any withholding. Do you lease employees in Rhode Island? That could be just individual preference at this point. Do you make sales at retail? This will be a yes. Sales tax liability greater than $200 per month? This will be a yes. This answer will be a yes. No, per month of rental, liability that you're collecting that month. If the liability that you're collecting for that specific month is over $200, that will answer would be yes. I can't hear you, I'm sorry. So you're going to file that 1 month, and you're not going to file for, I'll hit up on that in 1 second, okay? For when we come to seasonals. I'll take the questions after I'm done, okay? Then, will you be selling that section? Probably in most cases, in most of us here, it will only apply to rental of rooms or homes. That will be the only yes. And then go across this way, and it says, what's the type of rental? Is it a residential dwelling rental, i.e. your beach cottages or your beach homes, Or is it room rentals? If you rent room rentals, you cross off room rentals. If you rent a home in its entirety, it would be a residential dwelling rental. If you do both, you can possibly do both. You just gotta check them both off. Yes? Mm-hmm. Sure. So if you do make sales at retail, that question was, if you do make sales at retail, if it's a yes or no. If it's a yes, there is a $10 fee associated with the application. So you just go across and you put $10 right here. Then the second question was the sales tax liability greater than $200 per month. It's a yes or no. But it also says if you don't know, just write the word no, N-O. $10. Correct. No.
Okay, so I think the question was, you make sales at retail, yes, you put $10.
You got it.
And then the next one, the 200 per month, and if you put yes, what's the next line?
Nothing. Yeah, you either yes or no, you know.
The line to the right of none, you
Just leave it blank. Oh, those are the sections that you have to fill as you go through the application, which we're gonna go through.
So when you say sales tax liability, you mean if your sales tax equals 200 or greater, then you say yes. So not your rental, your sales tax.
Correct.
However, you must have notified tenants and pay prior to their arrival, which in the most part I should receive everything in May or June. Then the sales tax could be greater than $200 just for that month. How do you answer that question?
I'll get to that in 1 minute, okay? All right. So are we good so far with the first bunch of questions and then the second bunch of questions? Then where are you? I'm sorry. Total fee enclosed? Yeah, it would be 10. Do you add up whatever you have? Because somebody might, I mean, I don't know, but somebody might decide to sell food and drinks or gas or cigarettes or whatnot. So that total fee enclosed, it would be the total for all the permits that you're applying for, okay? In your case, probably going to be just the $10, but you never know. So then we're going to move on to the date business will commence in the state. When do you expect your first rental, or when do you expect that you want to open that sales tax permit? So say you don't have your first rental till June, it would be June 1st. You don't have your first rental till July, it will be July 1st. However, to answer your question, if you get all the money in for May, you could potentially expect that the May return that's when you start your business, as May 1st. So I'm getting to that, 1 sec. Then the seasonal operation. Seasonal operation is very important in our case here. If you can picture our system, they have January through December, and then the returns comes in from January through December. The computer is as good as it is, it only does what we ask it to do. So if January doesn't have a return, it's going to flag that is a delinquency. If July doesn't have a return, it's going to flag that is a delinquency. So that's why we're doing seasonal for you guys. Because if you only rent from, say, June, July, and August. June, July, and August are my months that I'm renting, and I don't want to worry about January through May. I don't want to worry about September through December, right? So by you putting June, July, and August are my months that I operate, we're only going to be looking for returns for June, July, and August. And if you have a rental for these months and you collected money, you collected sales tax money or hotel, you have to remit it for these months. If you don't, you still have to send in a zero return. Sure. I'll be right there. I'll be right. That's my next thought. Just give me 1 sec, okay? That was an error, actually, because the hotel tax doesn't allow you to file monthly. Again, Sue's going to kind of touch up on the monthly versus quarterly filer, but I just wanted to mention seasonal is very important because it only, in other words, your headache is only for those 3 months or only for those 2 months. You don't have to worry about the other months that you don't file for. So once we receive your application and it says June, July, and August, automatically we tell the computer don't look at anything after July or prior to June. So you only are responsible and worrying about 3 months in essence. Mm-hmm.
So now what I'm doing is I'm sending in a report every month saying zero collected, which makes no sense whatsoever.
So
You're getting paperwork, you've got somebody opening those envelopes and looking at it, for what reason? None.
Okay, did you, when you filed your sales tax permit, file for seasonal?
Yes.
Okay, you and I can talk at the end? All right, you and I can talk at the end. I'll give you my card, I'll have you call me, and then we'll rectify it together so you don't have to send in for the month that you don't rent in, okay? There is no reason for you to have to do that.
Is there a way of checking online to see that you've received your permit correctly, that it is recognized as seasonal?
The only way is to call us and we'll check it out for you. That's no problem. Don, give the number for our section. We can most certainly look that up for you. And if it's not properly registered, we can fix that. That's no problem.
We do just July and August too, so we're in the same boat.
Yeah. So, okay, so let me just say that. If you filed your sales tax permit and you put seasonal, June, July, or August, or July and August, or just August, or September, or whatever month it is that you rent, and you're getting delinquency notices, we want to know about it so we can fix it for you and for our system so we don't have to receive all zero returns and you don't have to worry about sending in zero returns, okay? So I'm gonna say, I'm gonna give you guys our phone number one more time. It's 401-574-8955. If you feel that you're getting delinquency notices in error or your application didn't get processed properly, we want to know about it so we can fix it for you. We're helping ourselves and helping you at the same time. 401-574-8955. Okay? Yes. How are you renting it? Are you renting each unit separately? It's a home. Yes. Yes.
So, the young lady that spoke a minute ago, I have that same situation. I filed, you have my application, which we're going over now, but I don't have to file another one, is that correct?
Correct. This is only for the people that did not apply yet.
And then this guy with the monthly report, now I'm wondering if I only have to file this monthly report. When is your fiscal year? Is it July 1st, or is it just July and August, or am I supposed to start
What did,
January, February, March, and put zeros as the young lady asked, which to me seems
but that's what I just said. If you have when you filed your sales tax permit, did you cross off the seasonal? Yes or no? Okay. What month did you say that's my seasonal? Those are the only 2 months that you should be sending in for. You got it. Well, I'll be right there. Just 1 second. So with the seasonal, talking about the seasonal, there is massive confusion of when the tax is due, okay? So Don had just give you guys an example. I believe you said there is a monthly payment. So I come to you and I say, I want to rent your home, but I can't pay it all at once. Can I give you 4 payments? I'm going to give you my first payment in January, second payment in February, third payment in March, and then the last payment, I'm going to give it to you in May. And you'll be, okay, that's fine, I'll take your money, blah, blah, blah. Comes May, when you collect that last payment, if you're going to collect the tax with the last payment, the tax is due for the May return. However, the taxable event is not till July when I actually physically take that key from you. If you choose to charge me the tax when you give me the key, that's when you file the sales tax in July. Most of the people don't want to do that because it's just hard. After I made all my payments, now you're asking me for more money. It feels like everybody wants to charge the tax at the very last payment. When the last payment comes in, the tax comes in as well. And then that's when it's due. The key word is, when you collect the tax, is when the tax is due. Does that make sense?
Yes. Just one second. Thanks, Teresa. I'm sorry to interrupt. Monica has some BAR forms, the registration forms. We ran out. So if you don't have one, please just raise your hand and she'll get one to you. It's the registration form that we've been discussing, the business registration, BAR. Yes, that's exactly it. Yep, perfect, thank you. And we also, don't forget also that we have it online, but it's nice to follow along. So if you don't have a copy, just raise your hand and Monica will bring one around to you. Okay, just one second. Okay, also, I'd like to let you know that we're joined by Senator G, who's sitting in the back on the far right. Senator, thanks for coming along. Good. Okay, go ahead. Thanks, Teresa.
I just want to touch up on that. Originally, we were, the interpretation originally was if you have different locations, you should have different sales tax permit for each location. And we heard from the Realtors Association, and we changed that process. All right, you and I can talk after? Is that okay? All right, yes. So seasonal is when you're actually operating, because technically the taxable event is not happening till you actually hand me that key. So technically it would be July and August because those are the months that you're renting in. But if you happen to have payments for sales tax in May or April, you can always send them in. It's not going to hurt. You know what I mean? The return, in essence, it will force the return, the computer will force the return in for that month, and it's not going to hurt, but at the same time, it's not making you to have to file for the month of May. So you have the option to file in the month of May when you actually collect the money. No, those are trust funds. Once you collect them, they're trust funds. They're due the 20th of the following month. Yes, those are your months. Because for, yes, so your June, July, and August are always have to be here. Whether they're money or zero, they always have to be here. Then the month that you happen to collect on or in, beside the month that you told us you're operating, those are the months that you can always send in the money, you know? you would apply for a claim for, you put in a claim for refund, but you have to show us that you refunded the tax first, okay? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. During that season?
During the season, someone elects to take the property for the entire month. How do you report that? Because that isn't under your legislation.
So you collected the rent for the week, and you collected the tax. Then while they're there, they decide that they want the whole month in the calendar month. So entire month, it's an entire calendar month, or, okay. So if it's an entire calendar month, the tax is, there is no tax. It's exempted. Susanna actually is going to go through that with the annual reconciliation. You don't report it on your monthly return. Is that what you're asking me? Yes. You don't report it on your monthly return. And also, what information do we provide for you, an invoice showing the taxes you collected? That's your backup, just in case if you get audited, yes.
Teresa, in that case, you'd have to file a zero return, because if it's an active month, sir, you'd have to file a zero return because you are active, but there's no tax due because it's a monthly rental. But again, if it's your month that you're active, you'd have to just let us know it's a zero, and that's all you have to do for that month. Okay.
You're one step ahead of me the whole time. Just one sec. So the deposits, when the deposits comes in, deposits are not taxable. It's only when you complete the payment. So this is my last payment. Only when I complete the payment, this is my last payment, here you go. Then you either can tax me now or tax me when you give me the key. But again, it sounds like everybody wants to tax with the last payment, which is, truthfully, it's safer for you too. You know, somebody's coming in with their beach gear on, they're not, you know, yeah. Somebody, yes. So non-refundable deposits are considered rentals. So on that $500 that you're not refunding, you would pay the tax on that. You would charge them the tax on that, and you would pay the tax on that. But you already had paid the tax according to this example over there. You had already paid the tax. So when you file for your claim for refund, we will only refund you whatever you refunded the customer. So you know what I mean? So for that $500 extra that you kept for a non-refundable deposit, that's considered a rental, and therefore it's taxable.
Is that a separate form? It's not on the same form, so you don't net it out on the same tax form? So in other words, if you're filing for August, and now there's somebody that canceled and you kept it, you can't net that out of your total gross income for that month?
So as long as you keep your ducks in a row, you can. You just have to keep all your backup. You know, I submitted for $5,000, but I should have submitted for $6,000 because, you know, that $1,000 was netted out of, you know, a cancellation or whatever.
So it can be on the same form?
Yes, we would rather you not, just so everybody's on the same page, but if you know, if you want to do it, that's fine. As long as it's in the month that you're seasonally operating. You can't do a minus return. You can't send us a minus return. So I'm just putting that out there.
So if I say seasonally, I'm going to rent June through September, but I don't rent June, because right now I don't know if I'm going to get June rent. I still have to file a form with a zero return because there's no reason.
You got it. Correct. Yes.
If we have a cleaning fee in there, that's a mandatory cleaning fee, does the tax apply on the cleaning fee?
Yes. Correct. Any fees that you're collecting as part of the rental, any fees.
Security deposit?
Are you refunding it?
Yes.
You're refunding it? No, you're not refunding it. Yes. So anything that you're not going to refund to the customer is part of the rental and subject to the 7 and the 1 or the 7 and the 6. Sure.
Really quick question. It goes back to the real estate agent filing on, or property manager filing on behalf of an owner. So when you get into, I mean, is this, do you take the owner and the address out? If the real estate agents, I mean, or just your property management firm and your.
All right, I just want to say, you're not filing on behalf of the owner, you're filing on your behalf. You are a real estate agent. You are the one who's dealing with the customer. You're the one who's collecting the tax. You're the one who's responsible for the tax. So Section A would be applicable to you. That's your information, not the customer's information. Not your customer, not your client's information.
Section B, the same thing.
Correct.
So you want this, so there's no social security number of a business.
Federal ID number. Mhm. All right, can we move on? I'll take questions at the very. Sure.
There are no individual forms associated with that. We are taking and remitting all the taxes on behalf of our clients.
Correct.
The only form that's redundant is the one, what town we're putting the hotel tax to.
Correct.
Other than that, we're not ever listing our clients' names, and it's not multiple licenses.
One license for each realtor, or one license for the realtor company that's collecting the tax. Okay? All right. Section A. I know you have a question. I'll be right with you. Section A is basically your information, who you are, what's your social security number or your federal ID number, what the address, what's your address, and what's the business address, what's the home that you're renting, what's that address. Section B, if it's different than Section A, you gotta fill out Section B, but if everything is the same, you just skip over Section B, okay? Second page. Most of you guys will not have payroll, but if you do have somebody that you're paying to, I don't know, to live at the home, clean it, or whatever the case might be, as an employee, not as an independent person, you gotta fill out that payroll information. Section D, so Section D would come into play on page 4. I'll come back to Section D. Section E, you gotta date, sign, and print your name. You gotta fill out A. And if B is different, the information on B is different than the information on A, you gotta fill out B. But most of us here is going to be just A. Like if you have a corporation or something like that, or you know what I mean? Page 3 and 4 are instruction sheets. They're cross-referencing. So page 3 will cross-reference the location code and the business code on page 1. And then page 4 will cross-reference Section D on page 2. You would find where you are, what city or town you're renting in, and that will be your location code, and what you do as a business code. Page 5, that's the taxpayer status affidavit. Without this signed and sent in, we will not be able to process your sales tax application. This just says that you're either in good standing with all your returns and all your taxes are paid, or you are on a payment plan, or you're get yourself into a good standing. Page 6 will not apply here unless you sell food and beverage. So if you decide to sell food and beverage along with your rental, you would have to fill out page 6. If not, skip page 6. Page 7, the multi-location city-town breakdown. All what we're going to do on here is we're going to list the name, the federal ID number or the social security number that we're using, and then the location or the city that that the house is located in or the rooms are located in. And we would cross off. See how it's like there is we'd cross off right next to Newport or right next to Narragansett or whatever the case might be. Your ID number is going to be either a federal ID number that you got from the federal department or would be your social security number. It's completely up to you. Say that again, I'm sorry? Correct. So, yeah. Yeah. What do you mean everything applies? Like the tax applies? Yeah, it has nothing to do with you living in the home or not. It all goes to whether you rent the home or not, okay? Before I move on to the permit, I know you had a question before the renewal. Just one if you're going to use the same social or the same federal ID number. Yeah, because it's only one sales tax permit, therefore it's only one sales tax return and one hotel tax return. So yes, one check. Sue will touch up on how to send it, the mechanism of how to send in the sales tax versus the hotel, but yes, it will be for both properties together, combined. So you could either be proactive and send us something saying that, we're going to expand our rental to Newport, while last year we only had Narragansett. Or when you send in the 8478, the form 8478, the hotel tax, you would say, we have this, we have that. Yeah. One sec. Go ahead. Yes. Yes. Go ahead. So again, just so we're all clear, anything you charge the customer, anything at all, is subject to the tax unless going to turn around and refund it. Okay? One sec. It doesn't matter how many owners, as long as we have one number, one federal ID number or one social security number. The address of the property. This last page, that page 8 or 7 or whatever, this is for us to know what jurisdiction to expect every month to distribute the 1% out to. Go ahead. Okay, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you collect the tax, you cannot. The tax is payable and due when you collect it. It's trust funds.
And then my second question is, we have a security deposit. What if there are damages? So we don't refund the whole security deposit. Then do we have to give you that extra money?
Yes, correct. So say you charged
But we do that when we keep it, not when we pay it.
Correct. So you're technically not keeping that security deposit till after the rental is done. So technically you didn't collect that tax till after the rental was done. So it's not due till you actually physically have it in your possession. You got it. Oh, okay, sorry.
Teresa, can I give one example? We're getting a lot of questions on security deposits. So the way this is working is, let's say you have a rental for $2,000 and you rent your place to me, and I have a 4th of July party, and the next thing is there's a hole in the wall. I've given you a $500 security deposit. Now, I paid you $2,000 for the rental. That's taxable. It doesn't matter the portion the realtor keeps. The $2,000 that's paid by the renter is subject to tax. But me being the renter, I've also given you a $500 security deposit. Now, there's a hole in the wall. You're going to charge me $300 for that. That becomes part of the total rental fee. Okay, the $2,000 is now increased to $2,300. In addition, I leave the place in a mess. You charge me another $100 to clean it up. I've actually paid you $2,400 now. That's what's taxable. So you don't really want to look at the security deposit as that taxable. The short answer is no. But the refundable portion is the amount that's not taxable. Now, on the other token, I rent it over the 4th, I leave it pristine, and I get my $500 back. None of the security is taxable at that point because I got it all back. So just remember, it's not the original $2,000, it's how much you actually charge me. That's the taxable amount, okay? So I know there's a lot of confusion about down payments and security deposits, but whatever the renter pays is the amount that's subject to tax at the end of the transaction, okay?
All right, so since a lot of people can't hear what the questions are, I'm going to ask everybody to come up, okay? So we can just line up in the middle and we can answer them as we go along. No problem.
I have a question on instruction sheet 1. I'm looking for the code, and the first code, 7096, is hotels, motels, and tourist homes. Is that the one if we rent out a house? And how do we prevent from being flagged as a 13% taxable hotel if we're really just a lower tax rate home?
So I failed to mention for everyone that for home residential dwelling rental, the code, the business code is 5538. Your code is going to be 5538.
Thank you.
No problem.
As a property management firm, should, in response or question to the damage deposit, if the damage deposit is, let's say the taxable amount is in excess of the damage deposit that's collected, and we would of course go back to the tenants who probably won't pay at that point, how do we handle that?
Well, let's say the deposit is $500 and the damages are $700,
Right.
and the most you're going to be able to collect is $500.
Correct.
Then the only thing I can suggest at that point is you would take 7% off of that $500 and give it to us. So it'd be more like, I don't know the exact number, but it'd be more like $450 for the person who owns the house and the other $50 for the taxes. I've been asked that question, and a lot of realtors said, though, that they run the security deposits on credit cards.
We don't.
You don't, okay. If you do it on a credit card, you're fine, because you can just go to the credit card and charge. But if somebody has given you a check and the most you have is $500, then you would just determine the taxable percentage of that $500 and give that to us, and the $450 would go back to the landlord. They may actually take a little bit of a hit on that if the damages were $700.
Okay.
Is that the hazards of renting, maybe? I don't know. So.
Okay. Second question, actually. We have some homeowners who've already taken out a permit themselves, yet we would file for them in total. Is that going to confuse the issue? Are they going to have to file a zero balance all year as a result?
They should cancel. Go ahead, Teresa.
Oh.
So the question was, if a client has already applied for a sales tax permit and they have a sales tax permit, and then they choose to go through a realtor or through a hosting platform, what do we do? The recommendation would be for your client to inactivate their permit. Because especially if they're going 100% through you. If they're going to do both, a little bit through you and a little bit through themselves, they want to keep that door open, they should keep it open and, file when they have something. But for the most part, if they don't do that and they do 100% through you, they should just inactivate their permit. Sure.
One more question in addition. when it comes time to the end-of-year reconciliation, I'm sure you'll touch on that, if both of us are acting, then would they reconcile their portion and we would not have to reconcile their portion?
I'm going to have Sue touch up on that when it comes time, just because we're running out of time. Sorry.
That is correct, though.
Yeah.
That is correct, yeah, yeah. Yep, absolutely.
The 7% and the 1%, who is the 1% paid to?
Okay, so the 1% comes to us, to the state of Rhode Island, and we disperse it back to the cities and
So
towns.
you pay it, well, because you were saying it was getting confusing because people were paying it all, is it 8%?
So the question was, why is it confusing about the 8%? I'm going to have Sue touch up on that. She's going to come up very shortly. Let me just go through the renewal form really quick, because that's going to hit everybody in this room, and then Sue's going to go through the returns, okay? For the sales tax permit renewal application, that is in the second packet that you guys had. I believe it's one of the forms. Yes. So it's the very first page right after the cover page. That's the form that we're going to go through right now. It's pretty simple. It doesn't have too much information. It just, all what we have to do here is fill out the Rhode Island identification number, your federal ID number, or your social security number, whatever you choose to use, the name and the address, name, DBA, and address, if you have a DBA, doing business as, the telephone number, if you choose to put a telephone number, and then how many permits you're renewing for. So say most of us here is going to have just one permit, so this is going to be a $10 permit, but if you have multiple locations or something like that, you would be, 5 locations, 7 locations, whatever the case might be. But most of us here is going to be only one.
And I thought you said multiple locations is one.
The question was, she thought that we said multiple locations is one. If you have 5 houses and each house is a separate LLC or a separate entity, and you want to register them for a separate sales tax permit, that's your choice. So you can file for multiple locations on this application, but that's your choice. If you choose to file everything under one umbrella, this is going to be just one permit, and you're going to only file for one permit and renew for one permit. Come up.
For those of us who have never registered, I have to register. This doesn't apply to me because I'm not renewing it.
I'll touch up on that.
Okay.
So she brought up a good point, which was my next point. This permit, the renewal, is due to be renewed every February 1st of every year. Since you're just applying right now, the permit that you're taking right now is only going to be valid through June 30th. So you have to fill this out as well. Might as well send them both in together. The permit that you're applying for right now, even though it's a new application, it's only going to be valid through the end of the fiscal year, June 30th.
Teresa, they might have to wait, though, because you need a number. So you want to get the permit. So get your sales tax permit first, and then file the renewal, because right at the top, it asks for the Rhode Island identification number. You need that with the permit, so.
So you're going to file, when you file your sales tax permit, the application for the sales tax permit, you are going to tell us what number you want to use. Do you want to use your social, or do you want to get a federal ID number from the feds and use your federal ID number, okay? That number is going to be your number with us. However, your permit number might be a little different, especially if you're going to use your social security number, because we don't want to give you you don't want to blast it on the wall with your social all over it. So it will be kind of a different number, but you could use, if you choose to do those two together at the same time, you use the same number. If you use your social security number, you use your social security number on both. If you use a federal ID number, you use your federal ID number on both, okay? Come up, please, come up.
You mentioned that you can fill this in online. How do we get you the signature page?
The question was if you can file it online. So if you don't have a Rhode Island address, you cannot file this online. You can file it online, but there is a checkbox. If you choose to do it online, there's a checkbox that says, I certify, under perjury of law that I'm signing and I'm applying for a sales tax permit. And we're taking that as, as your affidavit.
You can sign legally by writing your name and putting the four numbers of your Social Security. That's considered a legal signature. Your name and the last four digits of your Social Security. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
When you file for this number, you have to file for February next year also.
No, just one second. Just to clarify, once I fill this out, then I fill out the renewal also, because I have a tax ID number, so I can just do them both together. And then next year, I never have to do this again. I just keep filling out my renewal, correct? Thank you.
Did everybody hear that? Okay, the application, the sales tax application, once and done. You're never gonna have to do it again. That big, long application, the 8 pages long, you don't ever have to do it again. The renewal is what you have to do every single year. This one page, you're gonna have to do every single year.
I did send in the renewal, and I've noticed that I haven't received anything back yet. So will I actually be receiving a new sales permit?
The question was whether, because we sent in the application, the renewal application so early in the year, you are going to receive your new sales tax permit with new dates on it, but you're not going to see that till July. Because it's not due till July. It's not active till July. It's not effective till July. Do you know what I mean? Effective July 1st, okay?
You said when we file this, we also have to file for next year also at the same time. So instead of sending in $10, we have to send in $20. So we're doing this year and next year at the same time, whether we're in business.
Ready.
Whether we're in business or not.
Okay.
So the question was, do I file the sales tax application and the sales tax renewal application at the same time? I'm paying double, in other words. The application that you're filing for right now is only going to be valid through June 30th. And then the new sales tax permit is going to start July 1st. So this year, the first $10 is only taking you for a short period of time, but then from that point on, it's always going to be a 12-month period.
You just said it doesn't stop until July 1st.
All right, here's the thing, guys. We don't make the rules. We're just enforcing it.
Sir, you're right. It takes effect July 1st. We want you to pay now. That's correct. That's the way the law is written, okay? We're not going to argue with you on that. That's what we want, yes. We only enforce the law, sir, okay? We're going to stop this right now because we've still got an additional presentation with Sue, so Teresa will take questions afterwards, but at this point we want to show you how to fill these forms out. That's very, very important. Just remember, if you're filling out the BAR and you have questions, you have our phone number, so don't panic. Give us a call. We'll walk you through it, okay? But we want to get to the returns now, which is very, very important, okay? So we're going to start with Sue on that. Go ahead, Sue.
And just a reminder, everyone, thank you so much for continuing, even in this presentation, continuing to come up and speak into the microphone, because there are people, elderly like me, who have difficulty hearing. So if you, even during this presentation, if you could continue to come up to the mic for your questions, that would be great, and thank you very much.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Susanna. Once you fill out your business application, you mail it in with your $10, you're going to get a form back in the mail. And in that form, you're going to have blank forms. And if you turn to the STM form, these are going to be one of the forms you get in the mail. This is your sales tax monthly form. You're going to file this form along with your hotel tax form every month. So you're going to file two forms, your sales tax monthly form and your residential dwelling tax form, otherwise known as a hotel tax. Two forms every month, two returns, two checks, two separate envelopes. Okay? Right after the renewal. It says STM. So I'm just going to go over a couple of examples with you going over the form. The form that you see here has 3 coupons. What you would do is fill out 1 coupon for each month. So you would start off by filling your name, address, city, state, zip. Then under that, you would signature, title. Very important, you want to dictate the month. You want to write down the month in which you're filing. The example that I'm going to go over is for July of 2016. So you would write here, return for month ending July of 2016. And you also want to include your federal identification number, your social, whatever number that you're given for us to file, that's the number you want to include. Okay, so we're going to go over our first example. You have a beach house in Narragansett. The first 2 weeks, you rent out the house in its entirety. You got $2,000, okay? Third week, no rentals. You stay in the home, but you don't have any rental. The fourth week, you stay in the home, but you have a room rental for $500, okay? So again, the first 2 weeks, you rented the house out in its entirety, $2,000. Third week, you're in the home, but no rental. Fourth week, you're in the home, but you're only renting a room for $500. So you're collecting $2,500 for that month. All of that $2,500 is subject to the hotel tax and to the sales tax. On this form, you're going to take the $2,500, multiply it by the sales tax rate of 7%, and you're going to get $175. So you're going to write the $175 right on the dotted line here. That form is complete. Once you filled this out, you have your federal ID number, you have your July 2016 month, and you have the $175. The form is complete. Cut it out and close a check to the Division of Taxation for $175. Mail it. You're done with your sales tax portion. Okay? Now, if you flip to the next form, we have the Rhode Island 8478. This is the residential dwelling room rental tax return. You need to file this form now, okay? We already filed the 7% on the STM, so now we're going to capture the hotel tax. So you're going to fill out the top. Again, name, address, city, town, federal ID number, social, whatever your identification number is with the state. Don't forget that. That's how we identify you. And again, important, the month that you're filing the form for, July of 2016. So we're going to go right down to line number 1. Line number 1 says, total occupancy charges from a residential dwelling rented in its entirety for a period of 30 days or less. The first 2 weeks of July, we rented out the home in its entirety for $2,000. That's where we're going to put our $2,000, right there on line 1. Line 2 is just a simple calculation. Because it's a home rented in its entirety, it's only subject to the 1% tax. So line 2 is going to say $20. So we have the first 2 weeks of July that we rented the house in its entirety for $2,000. Week 3, we did nothing. We were in the house, no rentals. Week 4, we were in the house, but we had a room rental for $500. We're going to capture that now on line 3. So line 3 says total occupancy charges from room rentals rented for a period of 30 days or less, $500. Okay? Because it's a room, it's subject to the 6% tax. So line 4, you're going to multiply the 500 that you collected times 6%, and you're going to enter $30 on line 4. Line 5, you're going to add the 2 taxes that you collected. You collected the $20, the $30, so line 5 is going to say $50. From here, you have to go to the second page of the form, because you've got to tell us where this money should go. In this instance, we have one house in Narragansett. So we're going to go right to the line that says Narragansett. Under the column that says residential dwelling 1%, that's where we're going to put $20. That's from our 2-week rental that we rented in its entirety, that rental was subject to the 1%. The room rental column right next to that, 6%, where we rented the room for $500 for the 1 week, that's where we're going to put our $30 in that column. Okay, so we're capturing it here in Narragansett. We're going to write the 20 and the 30. Once you complete this form, you're going to write a separate check for $50 in this example, and you're going to mail it to the address on the form. Okay, so just to recap, every month you're going to file a sales tax form, check, return, envelope, and you're going to file a hotel tax form, check, return, envelope. They're processed separately, and we need to capture them separately and report on them separately. Okay, I'm going to go through one more example. Back to the sales tax form. In this case, we're just going to have we're going to have 2 houses, one in Narragansett, one in North Kingston. Okay, we have 1 permit. We're filing under 1 form. So we have a $2,000 rental in Narragansett, rented in its entirety, and a $2,000 rental in North Kingston, rented in its entirety. For the month of July 2016, we have $4,000 total occupancy charges that are taxable. So we're going to take the $4,000, multiply it by 7%, and we're going to get $280. So we're going to fill out the return as we normally would. Make sure we include our federal ID number, social, whatever identification number you have with us, July 2016, and we're going to write the $280 that is due for those rentals, okay, which is the $4,000 times the 7%, $280. Return, check, envelope, mail it off. But we're not done. We have our hotel tax now. So we're going to go to the 8478. And in this case, we have 2 houses, but they're both residential dwellings rented in its entirety. So we're going to go right to line 1. Total occupancy charges from a residential dwelling rented in its entirety. Line 1 is going to say $4,000. We're going to take the $4,000, multiply it by the 1%. We're going to have $40. No room rental, so you can forget about line 3 and 4. That doesn't apply. Line 5 is going to say $40. Okay? Then we need to tell the state where this $40 should go. So we're going to go to the second page, and we only need to reference that first column there, the residential dwelling 1% tax. So we know $20 is going to Narragansett, and $20 is going to North Kingston, for a total of $40. Okay? Then again, you're going to file the return with a separate check, separate envelope, and as long as you file a sales tax and a hotel tax for that month, your filing requirement is fulfilled for that month. Okay?
So the point we're trying to make is there is 2 distinctive taxes here. You've got the sales tax on the sales tax return, the STM, and then you have the hotel tax. And in the first example, we don't know how often that's going to happen where you rent a house for 2 weeks and then you rent a room while you're there, but we wanted to show you the difference between a house rental and a room rental, and that goes back to the Form 8478. And just to kind of make the point, line 1 is strictly for the house rental, and line 3 is strictly for the room rental. And the application of tax is different. As we talked earlier, the house is at 1% and the room is at 5 plus 1, 6. So again, the point being, there's two separate taxes here requiring two separate returns, and then the application for a house is not as severe as for a room. So we just wanted to show you that in the example.
Does the 1% go to on a separate check?
Yeah, that's the 8478. The question was, does that 1% go on a separate check? That's the point we're trying to make. There's a hotel tax and a sales tax. So the 1% goes on the 8478, and the 7% sales tax goes on the sales tax return. And a little bit earlier, I mentioned that that's where there's been a little bit of an error being made, where people are taking the 8% and putting it on the sales tax return. Well, you guys are all set up as two taxes, sales and hotel. So if you file on just the hotel, you're going to create a delinquency. If you file on the sales tax, you're going to create a delinquency on the hotel. And I think that's the point that Sue is trying to make. So yes, you're right. The 1% goes on that form 8478. That's the hotel tax return, okay?
Well, just to add to that, you're going to pay on line 5. So if you're filing 1% and you're filing 6% on the same form, because you can rent it in its entirety, and you can also have a room rental in the same month, you're going to pay on line 5. So if that is something that happens in your circumstance, you're going to write one check for this one return. Okay?
My question is, does the new form 8478 replace the current HOM hotel tax return form?
Yes, it does.
And when do we stop using the old one?
You should be using the 8478 now. Once you file for a sales tax permit, throw that old one away. The HOM is for the Marriotts of the world. They're going to continue on that.
That's still online.
Oh yeah, that's still a good one, but not for you guys. That's for the commercial hotels in the state.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do we have any more questions on the 84? If you want to just come to the microphone.
Well, don't laugh, people, and this probably is a moot point, but I understand you said two separate forms, got it, two separate checks, and two separate envelopes. Is this correct? So that when it comes to your office, no one can say, this goes to that desk and that, so you want two separate envelopes. Did I hear that correct?
Yes, the sales tax is processed separately than this tax.
And then, I assume before we touch this, we best go to a copier and make ourselves multiple copies, because once we've sent one in, or do you send us something each? I don't think you're going to send us.
No, take multiple copies, and then keep copies also what you're filing to us, along with support, right?
Make blanks and copy what we've sent.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Two questions. One, there's no way that we can file and pay online. Is that correct?
As of right now, not with the hotel tax. With the residential dwelling, we're just not set up for it yet. It's a new tax, so we're not set up. However, you can file the sales tax online if you choose to do so. So you would register, and you could file monthly online with the sales tax, but you would have to file a hotel tax separately each month by mail.
All right. My second question is, I want to apply for a DBA number, but I don't know how long that will take. How should I apply to you? I don't want to use my social, but I don't know what the DBA number will be.
Okay, so the question was that gentleman does not want to use his social security number. You could apply for a federal ID number, not through the state, but through the IRS. You gotta call the IRS, or I believe you can do it online through the IRS website, but I'm not really sure. But you gotta get that federal ID number first from the IRS in order for you to apply and start remitting.
And when is this application due? When will I be in default if I'm waiting for the federal ID number?
So the application doesn't come due till you tell us it's coming due, because if you remember when we went through it, we said, when will your business commence? So if you tell us, I'm not starting my business till June of 2016, we're not going to open up your account till June of 2016. So we can do it now, or you can wait till June. I wouldn't recommend to wait till June, truthfully, but I would do it, I would do it as soon as I know.
All right, thank you.
And just don't forget, if you have long-term rentals, you don't have to do any of this, that greater than 30 days. This is just for short-term rentals, so we spent a lot of time on the application process, but it may not apply to some people in this room.
Do you need a federal ID number for a trust?
Do you have a different federal ID number for your trust, or is it under your social?
We're asking whether we need a federal ID number for a trust.
What I'm asking you is, do you have a federal ID number for your trust? You gotta match whatever it is that you have. So if the home is in the trust and the trust has its own federal ID number, that's the federal ID number you're going to use. Okay?
Just one question. My tenant is a nonprofit. How's that handled?
The nonprofit may not be necessarily an exempt organization, but if you do have an exempt organization certificate from us, then you would be able to exempt that rental.
Okay. And how do I do that?
You would request your tenant for an exemption certificate from us. Okay, and if you want to verify, you can always give us a call, but typically it's on our letterhead, and it certifies that the below organization is exempt.
Okay, I'm sure they are. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you again for coming down. I just had a question. I got to go to work, so. Okay, I register seasonally, okay? And I have a tenant that comes in for 2 weeks in July, 3 weeks in August. So he's renting for 5 weeks. Now, I got one tenant renting for 5 weeks. Am I exempt because he's renting more than 30 days, correct?
It's got to be 30 consecutive days.
Yes, he's there for 5 weeks, 2 weeks in July,
The last 2 in July.
last 2 in July, and 3 weeks
First,
in August.
You're fine.
You're exempt,
That's
okay.
greater than 30 consecutive
Okay,
days, you're
all right,
fine.
All right, very good, thank you.
Okay?
Okay, so I'm just going to go with the last form that we have here in the packet, and this is the Form T204R Annual 2015. Sure. It's this form here. It should be right after the 8478. This form, you may not need to file it. If you are not registered currently with us, if you don't have a sales tax permit with us or didn't have one in 2015, you don't have to file this form. For 2015, yeah, it's because it's for the prior year, correct. If you were registered with us last year, but all of your contracts were signed prior to July 2015 and you didn't have any taxable rentals, you don't have to file this form either, okay? You will for 2016, so you might as well listen. And for those of you that do have it, we can go through an example now. This form, you're going to fill out again, your name, address, all that information. You don't need to fill out the period because we know this is for 2015, so we pre-print that for you. And your federal identification number, social, again, your Rhode Island identification number. With this form, we're going to start with the second page, okay? So you just go right to the second page of the form. So for this example, we have a beach home, and we rent for the month of July, August, and September. In July and August, we just do weekly rentals here and there, but we rent the entire month of September. And we have total occupancy charges of $9,000. So we're going to go right to section Schedule 1, sales by category. There are a bunch of categories here that we have to capture for the General Assembly, but you're going to enter your amount right on line 1B, where it says residential dwelling room rentals. We have a couple of columns, and that's only because this came into effect in July. So it's shaded for January through June. You don't have to worry about that. So for our example, for for July, August, and September, we took in total occupancy charges of $9,000. So we're going to write $9,000 on line 1B under the July through December. Okay, and you can carry that right to the totals column. Yeah. So then on line 3, we don't have any other sales. Line 3, you're going to bring the $9,000 right down. So July and August, we had occupancy charges, weekly rentals, but for the month of September, it was rented in its entirety for the entire month of September. So that rental was exempt, okay? And we collected $1,000 for that month's rental. So under Schedule B, legal deductions, you're going to go under 4L. You'll see the shaded box again, and it's residential dwelling room rentals greater than 30 consecutive days or 1 calendar month. This is where we're taking that money back out, okay? So we start with the 9, and we're going to take $1,000 for that monthly rental for September, which wasn't taxable. 4N, total deductions, we're going to bring the $1,000 back down. And then we're going to go to line 5. And line 5 is going to subtract line 3, which has our $9,000 of total occupancy charges, and subtract line N, the $1,000 rental that we had for the month of September that wasn't subject to tax. So now we have $8,000. So this form, I just want to reiterate that it's sales and use tax. Nothing to do with hotel tax at all. All we're looking to do is reconcile the sales tax returns, which would be the STMs that we file throughout the year, okay? So back to the $8,000 from line 5 on page 2, we're going to go to page 1 on line A, and we're going to put $8,000 there. Line B1, amount of tax, you're just multiplying line A by 7%, which is $560. Line B2, you can strike through. This isn't going to apply to you in this situation. Line B3, that's the total tax, $560. Line C1, this is important. This is where your records are going to come into play. You're going to verify that you did pay the $560, okay? So you're going to compare the payments that you made in the year 2015 to ensure this payment was made. Line C2 through C5, you can strike through all of those. That's not going to apply in this circumstance. And go right down to line C6 where it says total tax paid. You verified with your records from the prior year that you did file and remit $560. There are instances where you may not have paid $560, or perhaps you paid more than $560, and you would capture that on line D and E. But in this case, we paid it, we're good, we're done. Okay? So then you would just sign it, telephone number, and just mail it in. If there was any money due, you would enclose a check. If there was a credit, then you could file for a claim for refund. But 9 times out of 10, you're going to be golden, as long as you paid everything you were supposed to. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Are you registered with us? Then you don't have a requirement to file this. If you're registered with us for the year of 2015 and you didn't have anything taxable, or all your contracts were signed prior to July 2015, you have no requirement to file this. If you did have taxable occupancy charges in 2015, you should be registered with us and you should be filing this. Yeah, do you mind just coming up to the microphone? The figures that are going to apply here are for the calendar year of 2015 in this case. So you don't have to be seasonal. You can rent January through December Whatever you rented, whatever you collected in rent, your occupancy charges are going to be reported here. This is a summary of all your sales tax monthly filings for the year of 2015. Correct. Okay, so your question is, the September rental is? A calendar month. So that was the example. So I'm going to include all of the rents received in the first schedule here. So the first schedule, all of your occupancy charges, whether taxable or non-taxable, we're capturing them all on Schedule A. Okay, so Schedule A, we're capturing all of your occupancy charges total. It's in Schedule B that we're going to back it out. That's the legal deductions. So Schedule B, where you have a renter that comes in for 30 or more days, this is where you would capture it, and line 5 would net the two.
I think, come right up, but I just want to follow up on that. Your short-term rentals that are taxable are added together with all your other ones. We need to see the whole picture in Schedule A, but then you take out the rentals that are not subject to tax in B. That's your deductions. That's the way the form is geared. You got to remember, this form is used by some of the largest retailers in the state. We all use the same form, so it might look a little bit cumbersome to you as far as your industry, but if you go to the mall, any of those big retailers use the same form, so keep that in mind.
Yes, that's a good point. And if I could just make the additional point, if you could keep in mind a business principle, you know, when you were figuring out your profit and loss statement for a business, you're going to put your gross receipts at the top, then you're going to deduct your expenses. It's the same principle at work here on the back of the form that Don and Sue were talking about. You're going to put in your gross rental receipts at the top, but then you're going to back them out at the bottom. You're going to get essentially a deduction for them. Right, right. Yep, you know, it's a good question.
My question is, for 2015, we had the vast majority of our rentals were paid before July 1st, so we didn't collect the tax, but we did collect some tax. So when I fill this out for the July to December, do I include all of the rentals for that period, and then do I back out the ones that were booked prior to this tax going into effect?
No, just for this year only, for 2015, just include the taxable ones. Okay, going forward, we want the whole picture, but just for this tax year and the nature of the law, just the taxable.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions on the, sure.
I just have one quick question. I've been cruising some of the sites, if you will, and a couple of owners that rent on their own are putting on their description of their property 4% tax because they're absorbing the other 4%, which makes it look bad for the realtors that are collecting 8%. These folks are playing like games. What do you do about something like that?
It's against the law.
Yeah, it is against the law, but, you know, I guess, I don't know.
They cannot advertise to do that. You know, there's no retailer that can advertise to absorb the tax. Once in a while, we have this issue with furniture stores, especially when there's the mass holiday. You'll have a furniture store say, we will pay the tax. We've contacted them and said, you can advertise a discount equal to the tax, but you can't advertise to absorb any part of the tax. So as a realtor, to level the playing field, if there's certain websites that you want to make us aware of, then we will contact that individual for you. We may not be aware of them because, you know, exactly. So, I mean, we want to keep it level for everybody, the homeowner and the realtor, and that's illegal. So if anybody here is thinking of doing that, you can't. It's illegal. Yeah, we're just going to ask you to come up, so those that have a little trouble hearing, we'd appreciate it.
Well, on that note, I'd like to bring something to everyone's attention. Last weekend, the Wall Street Journal, in their weekend edition, reported that the Cape is having booming summer rental sales. I don't think that Narragansett is having booming rental summer sales. And when you think about it, the renters in Rhode Island, the state is putting them in a disadvantage. If you're renting a house for $3,000 and you're collecting $240 in taxes, and the state of Massachusetts is not collecting 8%, that $240, okay, could be grocery bill for the family who's renting that house for the week. So the families that have been coming to Rhode Island, the price of gas has dropped. So the families that were coming to Rhode Island are saying, gee, why should I pay $240 when I can go to the Cape and I can use that money for groceries, or I can use that money for going out, for meals. So, Rhode Island has been known to be anti-business. And here's a good example of why Rhode Island is anti-business, okay? Because you're putting the renters at a disadvantage. And this is one of the biggest businesses that Rhode Island has, okay? So I'm not asking you to respond because you're the messenger, okay? It's basically, you're the tax collector for the state, okay? But I'd like you to go back to your commissioner, okay? And let the legislature and the governor, okay, they don't understand business, because if they understood business, they wouldn't let this happen. So my point is, I'd like you to go back to your commissioner and express what I'm expressing, and I think the rest of you, do you feel the same way? All right? I'm not asking you to respond.
No, I'd like to respond. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Yeah, thanks very much. I think those are popular points that come up wherever we go in Rhode Island, whether it's this tax or any other tax, and I appreciate you raising the point. Thank you. But I think there are some other points to keep in mind. Your point about the governor and the General Assembly not understanding businesses, I take issue with that, because in Massachusetts, as you know, or should know, the corporate income tax rate is at 8%. In Rhode Island, it's 7%. In Massachusetts, Massachusetts has what's known as a capital stock tax, also known as a franchise tax. Rhode Island repealed that tax. In Massachusetts, if you die with a net taxable estate exceeding $1 million, you're going to pay an estate tax. In Rhode Island, you are not going to pay an estate tax. The administration and the General Assembly have worked together in recent years to make Rhode Island a much more appealing place for doing business. And as for the taxes on short-term residential rentals, about 40 states have these taxes. Now, it may be that Massachusetts and Connecticut do not have these taxes, but many other New England states and many other states up and down the eastern seaboard have them, as well as out west and in the Midwest. Comparing states from a tax standpoint is very, very tricky, because there are different taxes and different tax rates. Rhode Island has moved in a direction recently, especially in recent years, of lowering the tax burden. This is one area, however, that the sales and hotel taxes have been extended to. But if you look on at other taxes and your other tax burdens, as I'm sure you know, maybe the Wall Street Journal hasn't reported that yet. Perhaps they're not aware of it. Maybe we should make them aware of it. Rhode Island's tax burden to doing businesses in Rhode Island is much less than it used to be. So I just wanted to make the point. And yes, ma'am, go ahead.
No, that would be something that you would do on your corporate return or on your personal income tax
But it has
return.
nothing to do with this?
Nothing,
Okay,
no.
and the same with heating fuels, electricity, and gases?
Same thing.
Same thing, you can deduct those on your income tax form?
Personal
but
income tax,
not
right, or corporate.
Would you mind
another example for that form, the T 204R, only because I lost you at one point when you went to Schedule B.
Okay.
And just quickly go over that.
Sure, no
Thank
problem.
you.
Using the same example with the residential dwelling that we rented in Narragansett for the months of July, August, and September. July and August, we had weekly rentals. The month of September was rented in its entirety. The total occupancy charges that I collected for that period, or for my tax year 2015, was $9,000. And that would be listed on line 1B. Okay? Nothing else applies to me, so I'd bring that right down to line 3, the $9,000. The occupancy charges that I collected in July and August were taxable. However, I rented September for the entire month, which makes it not taxable. So I want to make sure that I now exempt that in Schedule B. So you're going to list that under 4L. You're going to write $1,000. That was the total occupancy I collected for September. So we're going to write $1,000 on 4L. And then you're just going to bring that right down to 4N. Okay? So then line 5, we would just subtract line 3 of 9,000, subtract the 1,000 from line 4N to get 8,000.
Okay, I got that until we started talking about if we are renters to URI students.
Okay.
So from September to May, I rent to URI students.
Okay.
Where do I have to incorporate that in the form? I understood you to say that needs to be for L, in line L.
You're correct. So you're going to look calendar month. So when do you rent? From September through December to May. So we're going to cut it off at December. So whatever the rent is for September through December, that's what you're going to capture on line L.
Okay.
Okay?
And then you're going to do the same thing for,
The following year, that's when you would capture the rest of that rental, I guess, the January through May would be filed on the next return, because we're only looking at the calendar year 2015.
okay, so this is only going to be from September to December.
Right. Well, it's going to be January through December. So this, yeah, I'm sorry.
Then the following year, you're going to have January through May, and then probably September through December. Okay, so remember, it's a calendar, it's January through December, whatever your activity is. So if you have URI rentals, you're going to have 2 areas, the beginning of the year and the end. The middle, there's nothing.
Okay, so back to that form then for that line L. Let's say from September to December, you have $5,000.
Right.
Okay, so that's going to go in that total for line L, and then you make the subtraction.
Right. Do you have beach rentals during the summer?
It's not consistent.
It's not consistent.
no.
Okay, so that's why you have a permit with us?
Well, that's what I'm going to have to apply for.
Okay, okay, yeah. So in that deduction, you want to capture the January through May, also that you had, probably to URI students, and then the September through December. So you want to capture both.
Okay. And
Okay.
then that goes back, that bottom figure goes back to the first page of the form.
Line 5, right?
Right. Yes, line 5 goes back to the form.
Right.
Okay.
Are there any more questions on the annual reconciliation? Okay.
Any other questions on anything else?
I have a question, but I think I spoke to Teresa back in the fall, and I think I probably should speak to her after.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, well, thank you. We'll hang around for a couple of minutes if anything comes to mind. If not, thank you very much for attending.
Just a quick note that all the presentation today, the paperwork, is online on our website. I say that not only for people who might have come in late, but also for people who are watching the video. Our website, www.tax.ri.gov, and on the far left of the homepage, go down to Online Services. When you're there, you'll see on Online Services the entire presentation as a PDF. Thank you very much.